What if I told you that 2024 didn't just take a man? It took a legend. John Amos, a name forever carved into the heart of cinema, is gone. But he wasn't the only one. This year, we didn't lose one icon, we lost 15. 15 brilliant black artists whose talents lit up stages, screens, and souls. Some slipped away quietly, fighting painful battles behind closed doors. Others were lost in tragic, sudden moments that left the world stunned. Each passing holds a story, raw, real, and heartbreaking. So grab a tissue, because this isn't just a tribute. It's a journey through lives that inspired millions and ended far too soon. Let's honor their legacies, celebrate their brilliance, and remember the unforgettable stars we've lost. James Earl Jones, the voice of God and his heartbreaking final chapter. James Earl Jones wasn't just an actor, he was a force of nature. With a voice that thundered like prophecy and soothed like scripture, he became the soul of cinema. As Darth Vader in Star Wars and Mufasa in The Lion King, he didn't just speak, he commanded. But long before those iconic roles, he stunned on stage in The Great White Hope, earning an Oscar nomination and cementing his place among the greats. Few performers ever achieve the rare triple crown of acting: Tony, Emmy, and Grammy. James Earl Jones did it all. But behind the commanding voice was a man scarred by pain. Born with a severe stutter, he spent much of his childhood in silence, locked inside himself. For years, words were a battlefield. And in a Hollywood steeped in racism, his journey wasn't just about talent, it was about survival. Every role, every triumph came at the cost of a fight few ever saw. Though he overcame, the wounds of that early struggle never truly faded. In his twilight years, the tragedies continued. In 2016, he lost his beloved wife, Cecilia Hart, a loss that plunged him into quiet grief. Then came the failing health, heart disease, chronic lung issues, slowly robbing him of his strength and silencing the very voice that made him a legend. On September 9, 2024, James Earl Jones passed away at the age of 93, in the stillness of his small home in Pawling, New York. His death marked the end of an era, but also a haunting reminder that even giants are not immune to loneliness, loss, and suffering. He gave us characters that define generations. He gave everything he had: his pain, his power, his presence. And in doing so, he left behind not just a legacy, but an eternal echo in the hearts of millions. Louis Gossett Jr., the trailblazing legend whose brilliance was forged through pain. Louis Gossett Jr. wasn't just a Hollywood actor. He was a pioneer, a fighter, and a symbol of black excellence in an industry that too often tried to silence him. In 1983, he shattered barriers by becoming the first black man to win an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his unforgettable role in An Officer and a Gentleman. But that historic moment was just one chapter in a remarkable and heartbreaking life. Long before that Oscar, Gossett made waves in the iconic 1977 miniseries Roots, earning an Emmy and leaving an indelible mark on television history. Over 6 decades, he took on more than 200 roles. Films like Enemy Mine, 1985, Iron Eagle, 1986, and The Punisher, 1989, cementing his place in the hearts of fans across generations. But behind the screen, his journey was filled with quiet battles and private pain. Born in Brooklyn, New York, Gossett faced the cruel sting of racism early on. At a time when Hollywood offered few roles for black actors, he was repeatedly pushed to the sidelines, not because of his talent, but because of the color of his skin. The psychological toll was immense. Every audition was a war, every role a protest. Yet he never stopped fighting. In the twilight of his life, another battle emerged: prostate cancer. The illness took a devastating toll on his body and mind, but even then, Gossett didn't stop. While his health declined, his voice grew louder in the fight for justice. He continued to advocate for civil rights, to speak out for the black community, and to inspire a new generation with his courage. On March 29, 2024, Louis Gossett Jr. passed away at his home in Santa Monica, California. The news sent shockwaves through the world, not just for the loss of a legendary actor, but for the quiet heartbreak he endured and the dignity with which he carried it. His death was more than a loss to cinema. It was the end of an era. A man who lit up the screen with strength and grace, who overcame racism, illness, and neglect to become an icon, was finally at rest. The brilliance of his legacy will never fade, but the pain he carried serves as a powerful reminder: even legends bleed. Carl Weathers, the warrior whose spotlight couldn't outshine the shadows. Carl Weathers, a name forever etched in cinematic history. To millions, he was Apollo Creed, the charismatic, unbreakable boxer who brought raw power and pride to the Rocky series from 1976 to 1985. He wasn't just a supporting character. He was the soul of the ring. And beyond the gloves, Weathers captivated audiences in Predator, 1987, and later won hearts again as Greef Karga in The Mandalorian, 2019 to 2023. But long before the Hollywood lights found him, Carl was fighting a very different kind of battle, on the football field. A rising star with dreams of gridiron greatness, he played for the Oakland Raiders and the BC Lions. But cruel injuries ended that dream far too soon. With his athletic career stolen, Weathers found himself lost, emotionally shattered and financially struggling. It wasn't just a career-ending injury. It was an identity crisis. A fall from promise that nearly broke him. Yet, from that darkness, Carl forged a second life. Film became his salvation, his way to fight back. Every role he played carried pieces of his real story, strength born from pain, courage forged through loss. But despite the power he exuded on screen, the man behind the characters still bore silent scars. The world saw a warrior, but few knew the weight he carried behind that smile. On February 10, 2024, the world lost Carl Weathers to atherosclerotic heart disease. He was 76. And while his death left a gaping hole in the entertainment world, it also unveiled a deeper truth: even the brightest stars live with shadows the world may never see. Carl Weathers wasn't just a hero in fiction. He was a man who turned pain into power, a fallen athlete who rose to become a symbol of perseverance. But even warriors grow tired. His story is both inspiring and heartbreaking, a legacy of strength laced with sorrow. His passing is not just a loss for cinema, but a haunting reminder of the quiet battles so many face behind closed doors. He gave everything: his body, his heart, his soul, to the roles he played and the lives he touched. Carl Weathers lived. He fought. He endured. And though he is gone, his spirit remains a beacon for anyone who's ever been knocked down and chose to rise anyway. John Amos, the beloved TV dad whose real life was anything but a sitcom. John Amos, forever etched into American television history as James Evans Sr., the tough yet loving father from Good Times, 1974 to 1976, was more than just a character. He was a cultural shift, a force, a man who redefined how Black families were portrayed on screen. His presence was powerful, his performances unforgettable. But behind the camera, his journey was far from picture perfect. Amos took on one of the most haunting roles in television history as the adult Kunta Kinte in Roots, 1977, a groundbreaking miniseries that forced America to confront the brutal truth of slavery. His film legacy continued with hits like Coming to America, 1988, and Die Hard 2, 1990, proving his range and sealing his place in cinematic history. Yet, behind the applause and iconic roles, Amos fought battles the public never saw. In 1976, fans were shocked when he was abruptly written off Good Times. The reason? A painful clash with producers over the direction of his character. Amos envisioned James Evans Sr. as a firm, principled father, someone who instilled discipline and dignity. But the studio wanted laughs, not lessons. That creative conflict cost him his role and temporarily his place in Hollywood. It was a career blow that left deep scars. But it didn't stop there. Away from the spotlight, Amos faced quiet storms, personal challenges, family tensions, and later, declining health. The stress from decades in the industry took a toll. And on August 21, 2024, the world lost him. He passed away at 84 from congestive heart failure. His death wasn't just a loss, it was a revelation. A somber reminder of the cost of resilience, the weight of expectation, and the toll of stress left unchecked. John Amos was more than a TV legend. He was a man who gave everything: his strength, his voice, his fight, to portray black fathers with honesty and depth. And though the world remembers his characters, the pain he carried behind the scenes tells a story just as important. In the end, he left behind a legacy carved in courage. But also a silence, one that speaks volumes about the hidden battles behind even the brightest stars. Bill Cobbs, the immortal bodyguard and the quiet tragedy of a gentle legend. Bill Cobbs, a name etched in gold across the history of film, graced over 200 roles in a career that spanned more than 4 decades. With a presence that was both steady and unforgettable, he became a trusted face in major hits like Night at the Museum, 2006, where he played Reginald, the dignified museum guard, and The Bodyguard, 1992, as Bill Devaney, Whitney Houston's protective and caring manager. His calm, commanding style of acting didn't scream for attention, it drew you in with quiet power. From drama to comedy, from Demolition Man, 1993, to Oz the Great and Powerful, 2013, Cobbs proved again and again that his talent knew no boundaries. But behind the scenes of his success was a story few ever saw. Born in Cleveland, Ohio, Bill Cobbs didn't start with the spotlight on him. He served in the U.S. Air Force, hustled through odd jobs, and only stepped into the world of acting at 36, an age when most have either settled down or walked away from their dreams. In an industry notorious for its pressures, and even more so for its barriers toward black actors, Cobbs faced it all: quiet discrimination, skeptical casting rooms, and countless rejections based not on talent, but on perception. Yet he endured. He chipped away at every wall in front of him, role by role, until he built a legacy. For years, he lived in the shadows of small parts and thankless scripts, but he kept showing up. Not with noise, but with grace. And with time, the world began to see what he had always known. True greatness doesn't rush, it rises. In July 2024, Bill Cobbs passed away at the age of 90, his health quietly fading with age. But his spirit, his resilience, his dignity, his artistry, remains. His death marked not just the loss of a gifted actor, but the closing chapter of a man who defined what it means to rise late, stand tall, and endure quietly. Bill Cobbs wasn't just an actor. He was a masterclass in patience, strength, and purpose. A legend, not loud, but lasting. And truly, one of a kind. Dexter King, the son who carried a dream and the weight of loss. Dexter Scott King wasn't just the youngest son of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he was the keeper of a legacy, the quiet guardian of a dream that changed the world. As president of the King Center since 1989, Dexter led with purpose, spearheading efforts to promote social justice and nonviolent education. He carefully managed his father's intellectual property, ensuring that every word, every speech, every image stayed true to the message of hope and equality. He even lent his own voice to his father's animated likeness in the 1999 film Our Friend, Martin, bringing Dr. King's voice back to life for a new generation. But behind the public role was a man forever marked by sorrow. In 1968, when Dexter was only 7 years old, the world lost a leader, and he lost his father. The assassination of Dr. King didn't just break a nation's heart, it shattered a little boy's world. As if that pain weren't enough, tragedy struck again 6 years later when Dexter's grandmother, Alberta Williams King, was gunned down inside her church. 2 acts of violence. 2 devastating losses. Before he even reached adulthood, Dexter had become intimately familiar with grief. And as he grew, the weight never lifted. The name King brought reverence, but also relentless pressure. Critics accused the family of commercializing Dr. King's image, claiming the civil rights icon's legacy had become a brand. For Dexter, those accusations cut deep. He wasn't just managing a legacy, he was defending his father's memory and his family's honor in a world that often refused to see the full picture. Then came the final chapter in a life already burdened by so much. In the last years of his life, Dexter fought a quiet, courageous battle with prostate cancer. It was a painful, solitary war, draining not just his body, but the spirit of a man who had spent his entire life carrying everyone else's expectations. On January 22, 2024, at the age of 62, Dexter Scott King passed away. And with him, a part of history dimmed. His death wasn't just a personal loss. It was a seismic moment for the civil rights community. A life spent honoring peace was haunted by pain. A legacy of hope, shadowed by trauma. Dexter didn't just inherit a famous name. He inherited a burden, and bore it with quiet strength, until the very end. Nikki Giovanni, the rebel poet and the heavy price of purpose. Nikki Giovanni wasn't just a poet, she was a revolution wrapped in words. A fierce voice of the Black arts movement, she shattered silence and spoke raw, unapologetic truth to power. From the late 60s, her debut collection Black Feeling, Black Talk ignited a cultural firestorm, giving voice to a community long silenced. Her words weren't just poems, they were weapons of resistance. Honored with awards like the Langston Hughes Medal and the NAACP Image Award, Giovanni became a living legend. But behind the accolades was a life forged in struggle. Born in Knoxville, Tennessee, and raised in the racially charged atmosphere of Cincinnati, Ohio, she fought injustice from her earliest days. At Fisk University, her rebellious spirit refused to conform, challenging authority, defending free speech, and daring to be bold when it was dangerous to do so. But being a symbol came at a cost. Her fiery statements and relentless activism drew both admiration and criticism, and the weight of being a cultural icon grew heavier over the years. Beneath the fearless exterior was a woman burdened by expectations, haunted by the pressure to always fight, to always inspire, to never break. Even as health concerns surfaced in her later years, Nikki never wavered, still defiant, still fighting. So when the news of her passing broke on December 9, 2024, it left the world stunned. It was a heartbreaking reminder that those who carry the heaviest torches often burn the brightest, and burn out too soon. Giovanni's death marked more than the loss of a poet. It was the end of a voice that dared generations to rise, to resist, and to reclaim their power. But make no mistake, her legacy will never be silent. Nikki Giovanni may have left this world, but her words will continue to echo in classrooms, protests, and hearts for years to come. Connie Kayum, the quiet exit of a South African screen legend. Connie Kayum wasn't just an actress, she was a force of nature in South African cinema, a trailblazer whose talent broke barriers and whose presence commanded global respect. To many around the world, she was best known as the wise mining tribe elder in Marvel's Black Panther, 2018. But long before Hollywood came calling, Connie had already carved out a powerful legacy at home, starring in countless films and television dramas that shaped the soul of African storytelling. With a career spanning more than 50 years, she became much more than a screen presence. She was a symbol of resilience, excellence, and pride. Yet behind the lights and applause was a life filled with untold struggles. Born in Welcome, South Africa, Connie stepped into the entertainment world in the 1970s, a time when apartheid-era racism and inequality made it nearly impossible for a black woman to thrive in the industry. But she didn't just survive, she soared, shattering stereotypes and redefining what it meant to be a black actress in a world that often tried to silence her. In the final chapter of her life, Connie faced a different kind of battle, serious health issues that she chose to bear privately. She never made her suffering public. Instead, she continued working, smiling, and inspiring, holding on to the grace and optimism that had always defined her. But in August 2024, at 72 years old, she quietly slipped away, leaving an entire nation and fans around the world stunned. Her passing was more than just a loss. It was a heartbreak. Years of quiet stress and fading health had finally taken their toll. But even in death, Connie Kayum left behind something priceless. A legacy etched in film, in hearts, and in history. Her story is a powerful reminder that greatness often comes with sacrifice. And though she may be gone, the fire she lit will continue to guide and inspire generations to come. Hinton Battle, the Broadway star who took his final bow too soon. Hinton Battle wasn't just a performer, he was a phenomenon. A three-time Tony Award winner, he left an unforgettable legacy on Broadway with roles that electrified the stage. From the whimsical scarecrow in The Wiz to his flawless footwork in Sophisticated Ladies, Battle wasn't merely a dancer or an actor. He was the embodiment of elegance, talent, and theatrical brilliance. But his magic didn't stop at Broadway's edge. He lit up screens in shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Dreamgirls, proving his artistry knew no bounds. And yet, behind that dazzling smile and commanding stage presence, there were battles the public never saw. The world saw a star, but rarely glimpsed the toll it took to stay one. In an industry known for its ruthless pace and unrelenting pressure, Hinton faced a silent storm, grueling schedules, the burden of image, and the exhausting demand to always be perfect. He gave everything to his craft, even when it cost him peace. On January 30th, 2024, the world was stunned by the news. Hinton Battle had passed away at 67. No official cause was revealed, but close sources whispered of long-standing health struggles, likely worsened by the emotional and physical strain of decades on the stage. His death wasn't just a loss to theater, it was a heartbreak. A quiet end to a voice that still had so much more to sing, a dance that still had so much more rhythm to give. Hinton's passing is a haunting reminder. Behind the curtain of stardom, many artists carry invisible wounds. He may be gone, but the legacy he built with sweat, grace, and soul will forever echo in the footlights he once ruled. Erica Ashe, the comedic powerhouse, silenced too soon at 46. She lit up every screen she touched. Erica Ashe, the brilliant comedic force behind Mad TV and Real Husbands of Hollywood, was more than just funny, she was unforgettable. With sharp timing, undeniable charm, and a presence that could steal any scene, Erica carved her name into the hearts of audiences everywhere. From the laughs of Scary Movie 5 to the heart of Survivor's Remorse, she showed the world what true talent looked like. But behind the spotlight, her life took a heartbreaking turn. Just as her star was rising higher than ever, Erica faced a silent enemy: cancer. It crept in without warning, ruthless and relentless, turning her final years into a battle most never saw. On July 28, 2024, the world lost a radiant light. At only 46, Erica Ashe passed away, leaving fans, friends, and the entire entertainment world in stunned grief. Her death wasn't just a loss of talent, it was a reminder that even the brightest souls can be carrying the heaviest burdens. Erica, who once made the world laugh, became a silent warrior, an emblem of strength, grace, and the quiet pain too many endure alone. She may be gone, but her spirit, her laughter, and her legacy will echo forever. Reynold White, the trailblazing icon who broke barriers and bore them silently. Reynold White wasn't just a model, he was a movement. In 1979, he shattered one of fashion's biggest glass ceilings, becoming the first black male model to grace the cover of GQ magazine. That single image didn't just mark a milestone, it opened the door for countless others, proving that style, elegance, and representation could no longer be confined to one race. Throughout his career, White worked with the biggest names in fashion: Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein, and more, leaving a legacy that rippled far beyond the runway. But what the world rarely saw were the silent battles he fought behind the scenes. In an industry where bias was woven into the very fabric, Reynold had to do more than pose. He had to persist. Every step forward was a fight, every breakthrough a quiet triumph over prejudice and doubt. Despite the weight he carried, Reynold never let it dim his spirit. He was known not only for his timeless presence but for his resilience, grace, and unwavering optimism. On June 26, 2024, after a long battle with age-related health complications, Reynold passed away at the age of 80. His death marked the end of a quiet warrior's journey, a man who gave the world beauty but carried burdens few ever understood. Chance Perdomo, a rising star, silenced too soon. Chance Perdomo was more than just a talented young actor, he was a force of nature. Bursting onto the scene with his unforgettable role as Ambrose Spellman in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the British-born star quickly captured hearts around the globe. His magnetic presence, unique charm, and undeniable talent made him a standout in every scene. But he wasn't done. Far from it. Just as the world was getting to know him, Chance expanded his reach with a powerful performance in Gen V, carving his place in the wildly popular universe of The Boys. His star was rising fast, and the future seemed limitless. Then, suddenly, it all came to a halt. On January 30th, 2024, at just 27 years old, Chance Perdomo lost his life in a tragic motorcycle accident. One moment he was on the brink of superstardom, the next he was gone. His death wasn't just shocking, it was heartbreaking. A devastating reminder of how fragile life is, and how quickly greatness can be stolen away. He left us right when everything was beginning to bloom, when his light was shining its brightest. The pain of his loss still lingers, not only because of what he had already given us, but because of everything he never got the chance to. A career full of promise, a life cut short, and a legacy we'll never forget. O.J. Simpson, from gridiron glory to a life shadowed by scandal. He was once the golden boy of American football, O.J. Simpson, a name that electrified stadiums and shattered records. In 1973, he became the NFL's most valuable player, setting a single-season rushing record that stunned the world. After hanging up his cleats, he stepped into the spotlight once more, this time in Hollywood, with hits like The Naked Gun, showing the world he could make them laugh just as easily as he once made them cheer. But behind the fame was a storm brewing. In 1994, that storm exploded into national chaos. His ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ronald Goldman were found brutally murdered. The world watched as O.J. led police on an unforgettable slow-speed chase, then stood trial in what became the most sensational court case of the century. Though acquitted, he was never truly free. In the court of public opinion, the shadow of guilt never faded. Life after the trial was a slow unraveling. Family struggles, broken relationships. A man once idolized now haunted by demons no one could see. In 2008 he was back in court, this time for armed robbery. Convicted and sentenced to 33 years, he served 9 before being released in 2017. But peace never came. In his final years, O.J. battled prostate cancer, a quiet but relentless enemy. And on April 10, 2024, the saga ended. The man who once stood on top of the world left this one behind. 2024 has been a year marked by heartbreak. We've lost 15 legendary black stars, icons whose talent lit up screens and stages, yet whose lives were often filled with pain, controversy, and sudden endings. Their losses cut deep, reminding us that behind every spotlight is a story, sometimes beautiful, sometimes tragic. Which of these legends impacted you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another story from behind the Hollywood curtain.